Hi, everybody. I'm Chris Preimesberger, editor of eWEEK. Thank you very much for joining us today for this latest segment of eWEEK eSpeaks. It's our series of conversational IT interviews with thought leaders in the business from all over the world and all different parts of the IT business. Our interviewee today is Art Poghosyan. Art is the CEO and one of the three co-founders of a company called Britive, based down in, he's based down in Glendale, California. And Art, welcome.
Thank you, Chris. Pleasure to be on the show.
Yeah, I'm interested to hear about Britive. I think I have an idea about what you do, but why don't you give me a high level of what the company does and a little bit about your own background?
Absolutely. So, Britive is a cloud native security solution. We're focusing on solving a very difficult problem in the cloud space. It's the identity management and permissioning of users in the cloud technologies, likes of Amazon, Google, Salesforce, and so on. And our background, myself and my co-founders have spent past 2 decades in the security space and specifically identity management, where we worked with enterprise, medium and large, mostly organizations, helping them deploy and manage the identity management, identity and access management solutions.
Okay. Could you explain to me why you're not an observability platform? Now, observability has been around, the concept's been around for quite a while, but it's getting more momentum because what it does is it kind of centralizes things like what Britive does, excuse me, and also allows for the owner to really keep an eye on everything in a system, whether it's including things like monitoring and security, et cetera. But so you're not really that kind of a platform. You really do focus more on authentication. Is that right?
Actually, it's a great question. Let me elaborate a little bit more. So, Brightive, as a platform, we do certainly have an element of observability because in security, as we say, you can't control what you can't see. So in that respect, Brightive does have the capability to discover identities and their privileges and their permissions across multi-cloud environments and present a complete and consistent view to the customer of who has what access where. And then we also have the ability to constantly monitor activity as users go into these cloud applications and platforms, and we pull that into our platform and show the activities. So in that respect, we are an observability platform as well. But really, even a bigger value proposition from a security platform like Britive is the ability to control that access. So a typical organization today, I'll throw some numbers out there. A typical mid to large organization is already in a multi-cloud world with at least two of the major infrastructure systems, like AWS, Azure, and so on, and another 50 to 60 major SaaS and PaaS and any other as a service, technology. And so controlling access into these environments, it's a very complex and very time-consuming task. So we provide that capability to centralize that control, and it's important also not just for the human type users, but also this increasing number of non-human like machine identities, APIs, robotic processes, and so
on. Okay, yeah, I was going to ask you about that. So you've touched on a little bit. Could you go maybe a little bit deeper into how you play on the edge? Because it sounds like that's what you do as a good part of the business. Is that true?
Yeah, so the edge technologies, I'm assuming you're referring to the edge technologies as, for example, Zscaler, right?
Yeah. I mean, edge is a kind of a general term that I probably should define. I mean, it's where the computing is done, outside of a data center, in your phone or in a laptop or in a remote location. Does Britive play in that area too?
Again, this is one of those areas that the devil is in the detail, right?
No.
The edge technologies operate. If you think of the sort of typical tech stack, they operate a little bit at a lower level of the stack or the network. Britive sits a little bit higher up in deeper into the application logic rather than the network itself.
Oh, I see. Okay. Could you give me an example of a use case of one of your clients that maybe our readers could identify with?
Absolutely. So one great use case and a very common implementation of a Britive technology in the customer's environment is an organization that already has hundreds of cloud operations and DevOps users that need access into these platforms like AWS and so on, and that access, to do that at scale and to do that at the speed of cloud, as we call it now, it takes really an automated system to be able to perform this, a very scalable operations. So the users come into the Britive platform where they're pre-authorized with certain level of privileges, given the job they're doing and given the environment they need to be operating in. Britive essentially becomes that service where the users go to get what we call these dynamic permissions on demand, pretty much just in time, and launch into that cloud environment and do their job. What's really important here as well is, as we see with all these recent major security breaches where access and privilege credentials are being compromised by attackers to get in the environment, what Britive also does is we don't just grant that access or privileges, we also make sure those expire at a certain point in time, and that's set by the policy. The organization has the full control of how long these privileges live out in the wild, because that's important to reduce the attack surface when the user is not actually using the privileges. You're on mute.
I know. I couldn't believe I did that. I was coughing there for a second, so I muted. Anyway, we're back. So I get it. So in this increasingly multiple cloud, hybrid cloud world, we need to have a platform. And let me just tell me if I'm reading this right. We need to have a platform that can help people do their jobs quickly from cloud to cloud in an automated fashion, so they don't have to keep logging in and logging out, right? So so Britive really kind of helps enable that, right?
Absolutely, and it's the logging in and out issue, or the friction as we call it, but it's also from the user experience standpoint. It's always been this perception, especially in the business type users as well as IT users, that security is always kind of a roadblock. So we eliminate that holistically from the standpoint that the users are empowered to self-grant access, assuming they're authorized for that, and not wait online a day, 2, 3, whatever, those typical processes to get access. And this is critical for cloud native environments and cloud processes.
Right, and in with so many applications running real time now, and processes that need to be, that just have to be done now. This is a huge advantage. And then at scale, you mentioned, when you start piling the scale up on this, it really, really does require something like what you're doing. Art, is there anybody else doing what you're doing out there? It doesn't seem like it. I don't know. I mean, you seem like you're really doing something very singular.
Yeah, Chris. So I think the space is very early. That is absolutely on the mark, in that the players that are emerging in the space are tackling certain pieces and parts of the problem with cloud access and cloud privileges. For example, one of those areas is just that discovery and visibility, which goes back to that observability problem, which is a huge problem as well, right? And that's that's one of the areas where we see most of the existing other emerging players focus on. And the uniqueness about Britive is that we combine that with that near real-time permissioning and access enforcement. That makes us unique.
Yeah, I can see that. Is Britive strictly a cloud service, or is it an app that could be running in a private data center on a server?
Our near-term strategy from the very beginning has been to address the cloud-native world, cloud-native needs. That's where we see a huge opportunity and virtually unaddressed, market need. However, down the road, we do see us, expanding more into hybrid environments as well, because there is also a huge, problem and pain point in that area.
Yeah, I can imagine that this app would be really valuable for government. Well, I can just think of all, financial services, all kinds of different use cases. What are some of the use cases that you're selling into now?
From the industry standpoint, or generally?
Just
Yep.
generally.
Yeah, I'll address both. So it's interesting, as we were starting out, we were looking at, where are the bigger pain points and what type of, organizations, market segment really. And as we've learned and continue to learn, that this is kind of a cross industry problem. This is more of a cloud problem rather than an industry problem. So government, financial, healthcare, retail, we have customers across the board. The most common use cases happen to be kind of along the lines of what I was alluding to earlier. Organizations want to know who has what access across these cloud environments, which is that, we can't control what we can't see type of problem. And once we do see what we need to control, how do we do that? Those come down to like that common policy model that Britive brings to the organization, where they can control certain types of access for IT, DevOps, to business users as well, the users of HR systems like Workday or Salesforce and so on. So consistency is key in the multi-cloud environments. The third thing that we do, which is one of the newer areas that we're kind of building the product and evolving the product in, is our ability to integrate with this, very quickly evolving CI/CD cloud automation environments, like the new term now is infrastructure as code. So Britive as a platform is also built with API first architecture in order for us to be able to seamlessly integrate with automation there that is being put in place to manage cloud environments for the infrastructure resource provisioning, for example. So that's another, we see a critical need in that as well. DevOps teams, cloud infrastructure teams are struggling with this diversity of tools that they're being offered, and there's a great market, a growing market for that. But the challenge from their perspective is, to move away from multiple tools to standardization, and to reduce costs, to reduce, to inefficiencies and so on, right? So that's where we help organizations as well.
All right, Art, I think we're just about near the limit of our time today. If somebody was interested in finding you, is it Britive.com or something else?
Yes, that's correct. We chose the, good old-fashioned .com domain. So we're Britive.com, correct.
Okay, simple is usually good, and I appreciate it. How long has Britive been in business?
We're going on our third year, Chris.
Okay, so you're still in that pretty much startup role. And do you have you've got VC funding behind you, or is it angel invested, or yourself, or what?
No, we are VC funded. We raised our first institutional round last year, and at the pace the business is growing, we see ourselves, potentially doing another round soon.
Very good. Well, good luck to you going forward, Art. You seem to be in a pretty good lane, I think, with what you're doing. And as we look ahead, all of this is just going to grow. The way the business that you're in, the part of the IT business that you're in is just going to grow. It's not going to shrink up anytime soon. So good luck.
Agreed. Thank you, Chris.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Art Poghosyan, who's the CEO and one of the 3 co-founders of Britive from Los Angeles, California. Thank you, and come back and join us again sometime later. When you spot a trend or something, let me know, and we'll come on and talk about it. Thank you all for joining us today and following us to the end. Have a great rest of your weekend, your eWeekend. Thanks for joining us on eWEEK eSpeaks. Go to eWEEK.com to hear more conversations with IT thought leaders.